what's going on, everybody? Tyrell Friday here with FutureDDS.
Tyler Brown here with FutureDDS.
And today we have a very special guest of ours, actually one of our professors from...
Is this the first time we've had one of our professors on?
I think this is the first time we had someone from the Tough Family faculty.
Very special already.
No, thank you again for taking some time out. But this is Dr. Lagreca. She is, I mean, well, you know, we can allow her to introduce herself a little bit more, but, you know, we've learned a lot from her through classes, seeing her in clinic. She is one of the forefront and leaders in the international trained dentists and helping people, you know, kind of transition into practicing in the States. So, yeah, without further ado, if you could, you know, give us, you know, reintroduce yourself and give us a little bit more about your background. Tell us a little bit more about your story.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me to start with. And as I said, I feel honored and blessed, and I'm the first faculty member at Top Studies here joining your channel, which I think it's okay. This is after hours, so it's fine.
There we go.
The impact that you guys are having, and I just want to mention that at the beginning before I forget, that I feel like just this initiative, and we're going to touch base on what it means to be a dental student in the United States in contrast to what it means to be a dental student elsewhere in the world. But I think it's important that whoever is watching this video knows that this is not that you're doing something that you're doing because you have a lot of free time in your hands. This is something you're doing because you really want to take this to the next level. It's not lack of, I don't know how to say it. It's not even not having it's a real interest in creating an impact in your community and taking the extra additional time in your schedules that are already quite busy to do something that is meaningful for others. So for that, kudos to both of you.
Thank
you. Talking a little bit about myself and how did I get into the United States to begin with. I'm originally from Venezuela. I've been in the United States for 10 years. And you guys don't know this, but 10 years ago, my first spot here at the country was actually Boston. Right before coming to Boston, I only had like one trip to Miami for shopping. We do that in Venezuela a lot. I don't know why. So I come to Miami, we go to Disney and we go shopping. I had that trip back a few months before coming here. And then I started exploring the opportunity to come to the country to study. That was my first intention. I always wanted to be a prosthodontist. And I learned that the programs here in the United States were very clinically involved. And somebody told me with 3 years of pros residency, you're going to get 10 years of clinical practice experience. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a good deal.
Yeah.
So that was my first intention. But to be honest, I was really tired after dental school. I was exhausted. Dental school in Venezuela is 5 years. I just wanted to get out and work. I couldn't see myself going back to school, and especially not in a full-time matter like it is here in this country. So I took it easy first. So I applied for an implant fellowship program. And that was my first experience in the US. Was a 1-year program. So I said, you know what, if after that year I decide to go back, I decide to go elsewhere, I will still have some skills and that will be good. And then of course that year was the one that opened the door, and it was at Tufts as well. So I started realizing that I didn't know what I didn't know. And whatever it was out there to learn was so much bigger that I almost felt like it was a disservice for my patients not to maximize my experience and try to get as much training as possible. So I got in the crazy plan of staying in the US for a little while, exploring pros, and with the support of my dad, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it. My mom was completely against it. She's like, why more school? I think this is enough. But anyway, long story short, one thing took the other, and here I am. So 10 years after I decided to stay. What happened after I finished pros? It was the shock, right? So I finished pros, and life is good, and I started working as a faculty a little bit. Like, oh, let me just explore the possibility of staying. And the reality hit. As a foreign trained dentist, getting a license in the United States is a big challenge. And when I mean a big challenge, I'm talking about something major. Anything that I lived in my life before that moment cannot compare to what it represents to get a license as a foreign trained dentist. Not only because you're a foreign trained dentist, also because I was not an American citizen at the moment, right? So we're talking about a couple of barriers. We're talking about a licensure problem and not my degree not being recognized in this country. That was the first step. Then also not having papers to work, like I have to live on a visa, I have to always depend on somebody. Also the financial component related to that, because I didn't have a visa, I was not a citizen, I couldn't even ask for a loan. If I wanted to get a loan, I'll have to get like an outside party to be my sponsor for the loan.
Wow.
And it will only be a private loan, and you could imagine what the interest will be for you.
Out the roof.
not even talk about that. So it felt like the layers of complexity were just piling up into, okay, is this really a realistic dream of mine, or if it's just going to be too much? But you know what? I kept going. And as I said, having supportive parents helped a lot. And I kept exploring the options. And that's why I ended up staying a little bit longer at Tufts until the point that I grew to love academia to the moment I am right now. I cannot picture myself doing only private practice. I really feel this really connects to my personality so much. Although I always saw myself with doing some teaching, it was never to this level of commitment that I feel right now, even though I'm still able now to practice and I could do other things. So that's a little bit of the background story. And we could then dive into the details of what it is to be an international dentist in a foreign country. But that's pretty much in a nutshell.
Okay, and it's awesome, right? Because literally, granted, we're both from the States, and on our platform, we have so many people reaching out to us, and they asked us for what it is that you're doing right now with the international dentist. Granted, we had no real information. We went online and we were trying to decide.
We were trying to put it together.
Yeah, we were trying to put it together to go and tell these people who were asking these questions. But it was so hard for us because we hadn't been through it, and we really didn't know that many people who had been through the process. I mean, of course, at Tufts, we do have an IS program, yeah. but still, it just seemed like it was just so much confusion. There were so many different layers. And so the fact that you created this platform, it is huge. And so, we wanted to ask you, like, what really inspired you to make the platform? Was it the fact that you had been through it, or were people coming to you?
Yeah, a lot of people reaching out before you started the platform? Like, yeah, how was that process?
Yeah, that was kind of organic at the beginning. And then I guess it just became a thing. All of the international dentists I know, they receive multiple messages from people they know, right? So you have people in your community that I might ask you, how did you do it? Mm-hmm. And I think one guest in my podcast told me once, the did is more important than the do. So what did I do? Are you willing to do what I did to get to this point? Powerful. So I just want
to write that down. Yeah.
So it's really valuable to think about looking back. Okay, I look back and I probably remember, maybe now that I'm more invested into this as a project, of course, I have the information clear in my mind, but it took me a lot of hours of self-reflection, remembering everything I did, talking to people and having them do the same thing so we could actually create a community. And what I realized is that a lot of people go through a lot of things, but not everyone's path look the same, meaning that there is not like a recipe for this. So it's not like you go on a website and you find all the information and it's everything there. Right. There is multiple layers of information. And then you realize that there is multiple paths. In many countries, this is not a thing. Like you don't even have licensure being controlled by the states to begin with. So it's just like a national entity that controls both education and licensure. So if you graduated from one dental school, you get your license, you can work anywhere you want in that country. So that's what it is in anywhere else in the world, with the exception of the United States. So that alone,
be different.
Of course, it'll be special, kilometers, miles, and all these things in Fahrenheit. But even to that extent, I think that that's the first aspect that I have to learn when I came here. The first cultural shock was understanding that the American dental education system is very unique and special in many ways. And for those reasons, international or foreign trained dentists have a hard time understanding, because they just come from a completely different background. So it's almost like not only speaking a different language, but speaking a different kind of dentistry to begin with. So I felt like I was in that need. Of course, I was being approached by a lot of people asking me, what did you do? And I almost felt a little bit guilty of just saying my story, because in a way, I don't think that just because I tell you what I did, you're going to be able to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's just one piece on the equation. That's just my particular personal story, and that could help inspire others, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do exactly what I did, right? Because there are so many other factors that did not depend on me. Okay. So I felt like I needed to create a space for everyone to share their story, so I could actually make awareness of the fact that there are multiple stories, because there are multiple career paths in the United States for foreign trained dentists. And that's how the podcast started. I'm a podcast consumer. That I love social media and all that, and I don't have to tell you, but I consume a lot of Audible content. Like I don't read books, I use Audible. Anything I need, I have a question, I look on YouTube. I'm very familiar with doing Zoom meetings, even since before it was a thing. So I guess it was natural for me to create something that I will enjoy. And that was my first intention. Let me just bring something in to the table that first doesn't exist, because there were not podcasts at all about this issue. And there were no YouTube channels either. of people talking about these things. A lot of blogs on Facebook and Facebook groups and things like that. That's where people mostly find their information. But you don't have a dean of the dental school going to a Facebook blog and commenting stuff, right?
Yeah, not at
So
all.
I said, you know what? I want to interview that dean that I know is from a foreign country. And I want to know how he became a dean in the United States. I want people to know that it's possible. So that's how it all started. And that's, I guess, is been my intention, just not only creating awareness of what it is here, but also inspiring people that they really can do whatever they want as long as they work hard for it.
Through building this platform, it seems like you're diving into multiple spaces. Like you said, there's a lot of different avenues, from it being Facebook, Instagram, obviously, like you said, your podcast. So I guess, what avenues are you focusing on the most? You have a podcast called TID, or International Dentist Podcast. So I guess if you can explain more so about like the scope of that, and kind of how you go about choosing your guests, and the stories that you tend to, I guess, highlight through your platform.
Yeah. So the TID podcast, International Dentist Podcast, is my baby. That's I think how everything started, and how all the next things that we're going to talk about actually came along. I started by, to be honest, my first roster, I was so freaking out. So I had the idea running, right? That was during the COVID, at the beginning of the lockdown back in April. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, we have all this time in our hands. We were just doing Zoom stuff. And so I started running again, finally, after so many months. And then I always get my best ideas running, by the way. It's just, I run not because of any other benefit other than the ideas I get there. Guys, you cannot believe it. I have to leave a notebook near the door with a pencil, because I get home, half of them don't worth anything, right? So then I read it like, what? But I really had like a lot of ideas for podcasts and writing books and things like that, whatever. We'll at some point, whenever ideas come.
We'll get into it.
So that's how even the name of the podcast came along. So imagine April. So this is me, April, May, June, just like reading, so taking courses online, because of course I had no clue about nothing. Luckily, my partner is very technological, and he's like, okay, let's just do everything all the way. Like, what do you mean all the way? It's like, okay, we're gonna get equipment, we're gonna do whatever we need. And you know what I said? If I'm gonna do something, I'm a prosthodontist. I don't have to explain you. So I like to take things, if I can, to the next level. If I can. And I like technology, so I felt like it was the perfect opportunity for not only preparing myself into something new, learn something new that I feel passionate about, and that I could combine with helping people. So let's just start getting prepared. It took, I don't know, I think I sent my first email to collecting rosters in July. So April, May, June. And then one night, I remember I was sitting in the couch and I'm like, I have the roster ready of 12 people I identify. How did I identify them, to answer your question? My friends, to be honest. Like I have a circle and a network of people that are fantastic individuals that have either higher positions in academia, or they have gone into private practice and they own multiple practices. So I felt like I wanted to really highlight everyone, but not only those stories, even people that just did their license and went into private practice. I wanted to really get a variety of people. Also, I thought about different nationalities. I didn't want everybody to be Venezuelan, of course, although I do have a few Venezuelans in season 1.
Of course, yeah.
And that was the beginning. So I figured that I will also make themes. That was very clear from the beginning to me. I didn't want to just do an unrolling thing. I wanted seasons, because seasons will allow me the opportunity to have a theme for each season. Yep. And I didn't know what will happen, right? So I didn't want to have a commitment. So I said, you know what, season 1, 12 episodes. If something doesn't go right, I can always end it there. Nobody got hurt. I just have like thousands of dollars in equipment, but that's fine. I can return. So that was the moment, the most nerve-wracking moment of all this experience. That night, me sitting on the couch with the drafted email and then clicking send. I'm going to just send this. 10 emails, I think I sent at the beginning, 10, and went to bed. And I woke up in the morning and I have 8 replies already. Oh, man, of people, what? I think this idea is fantastic. Phone calls, voice messages in my phone of people 100% supporting and already booking, because I put a calendar link for people to book and all that. Mm-hmm. So that gave me a lot of empowerment, and it made me feel, okay, I think I can totally do that. So I launched a podcast in October. Then, of course, going through the process of learning how to edit. You guys do videos, so I don't have to explain you. And that was fun too. It's a lot of work, but it continues to be fun. And that's how it all started.
Man, congrats on launching and where you've gotten to so far, for sure.
But I think like we went on the website. Don't you have like 4 seasons already?
2.
Okay. I was like, there's so many episodes. And I don't know why I was shocked when we first saw that you were doing, something outside of, being an amazing professor, right? We don't necessarily see that as much. And, I remember I was on LinkedIn and I was like, hold on, is this my teacher? Is this Dr. Lagreca right here? And so, it's just really awesome. And you talk about how, our schedules are packed. We know your schedule's packed. It has to be. So, the fact that you've done the same thing is amazing. It's amazing. And so with the podcast, that being your baby, what has also kind of been birthed from the podcast? Exactly. Like, I know you're working on some things. I'm sure that you don't need to tell us about those things, but what are some things that the public, can know right now that you've been doing?
Yes. So we have the secret part that we will not get into, but the other stuff that we and no, so I think the most relevant thing, the initial relevant thing that happened after the podcast was the awareness issue and how I became a little bit more visual in the things I was doing. So that visibility allowed me the opportunity to communicate the message even further. Mm-hmm. So of course I started being invited in some other YouTube channels. Some communities in Spanish have asked me to interview. I did a lot of pre-dental and pre-medical shadowing online during the COVID. So I became involved with a lot of that stuff. And then I realized that people were asking me, they wanted me to be coach, right? They wanted me to be a mentor and they wanted to hire my services and all that. But again, same thing as the same way I felt if I just tell you my story. I felt that I was not the one to just charge you money to tell you what I did. Or because I did something that it was successful on me, I cannot guarantee you will be successful on you. Wow. So this is where I start reaching out to my team. I know wonderful people. I love to collaborate. I feel like nobody can do it alone in anything in life. If you really want to be successful, if you're going to go far, you have to go together. So I start connecting with certain people around me and say, let's try creating a program, because I felt like if I was 10 years ago, I'm trying to think what I needed. And what I needed was to be able to find all the information I needed in one place and then being able to interact with the information and with people that explain it to me. And at the same time, I wanted to interact and network with people from universities, right? Because it was very difficult for me to even get into a university and talking to people because I didn't know anyone in the US, guys. Zero. Like I have 0 family, 0 friends. It was just on my own. And one day I will tell you the crazy stories on how actually I met my first person in the dental school. Oh, wow. But it was really a challenge for me to even break that barrier. So I wanted to create a space where people could comfortably feel that they were part of it, even though they were not yet. Because I feel like when you feel part of something, that's when things start becoming reality. 100%. So to me, that was true. When I first came to Tufts, I went to an Hispanic Dental Association meeting. And in that meeting, I remember I was just sitting there and I just came for English 3 months. And in those 3 months of English classes, I met everyone. I made everything possible. Why? Because I was really committed that that's what I wanted. But in that meeting for the Hispanic Dental Association, they have the sign-in sheet and I put my name, my email, and I was there with a friend. She put her name, her email, and somebody approached us and asked for my friend's last name. Oh, do you know so-and-so? Oh yeah, we went to school together in Venezuela. This was Dr. Daniel Oriadi, the oromaxillofacial surgeon at Tufts. So it happened that he went to school with my friend's brother back in Venezuela, who knows when. So that's how it started. Then he asked us, oh, what do you guys are doing here? And he gave us his card and then we emailed back. I'm telling you, my friend is not even doing dentistry anymore. This is how funny things are. I was there in the meeting because of her. I connected with Dr. Oriadi because of her. She's not even doing dentistry now, 10 years after. But I'm here. So I feel when things are for you, they're just for you. Sure. But when you become part and when you feel part very quickly, it gives you a sense of, I don't know, possibility.
100% hope. Yeah, 100%.
Definitely.
So that was for me, for sure. So I think that happened with the International Dentist Bootcamp, which was my second baby in this whole process. So you know what? Let's try to bring together a program, and what best opportunity to do an online program than now. I see the challenge, and the challenge is that now more than ever, nobody can shadow, right? Nobody has opportunities to go to schools, observe or anything. So if you feel a challenge as a pre-dental and as a pre-medical, and I was seeing that already because of the activities I did with those groups, imagine a foreign trained dentist. They will feel even more left out than anyone else. So I said, you know what, let's create something online and see how it goes. And that we we plan around the DIA annual session and the opening of the applications for the international programs with the DIA Capit and for the residency program. So we planned the event in March. So we hosted a 2-day bootcamp session on which people in the morning have content and in the afternoons have networking. So we invited 16 faculty members, not faculty members only, 16 professionals who were foreign trained dentists. Between faculty members, I have deans for dental schools, I have assistant professors, I have people in private practice, I have people doing the residency at the moment and doing the advanced standing program as well, because I really wanted to get the experience of everyone. And we have a panel so participants could ask direct questions to all these people. So I think it was very nourishing. We did interview training, we prepared curriculum, we did personal statement, we explained that what were the difference between the American education system and their own. So it was really good. The feedback was great. And that's, I guess, something that will continue to grow.
It's definitely amazing to hear about, your process and how you actually were able to, I guess, get introduced to your whole dental journey and that process. And it's crazy how, like you said, that the person that introduced you to it is no longer there, but, it grew into what it's become today. So if you could just take us a little bit more into that process, I'm sure, like you said, you had some barriers to go through. If you kind of go through how you overcame some of those barriers and kind of give us an outline of that process of becoming a dentist in the States.
Absolutely. So for a foreign trained dentist, there are primarily two paths, right? One is considered the predoctoral path and the postdoctoral path. And what that means is basically one will take you back to dental school and the other one will take you to a specialty training. Specialty being either prosthodontics, periodontics, ortho, whatever that is. And then the other path, which is becoming a dental student. And so let's talk a little bit about the two, because I think that's the first step for people to understand that one will give you a degree, the other one will not. Because with the predoctoral path, which is you become a dental student path, you get a DMD or DDS degree. With the specialty, you get a certificate. So that is the main difference between the two. So when you get a degree, you're able to practice anywhere in the United States. Okay. When you get a certificate, you don't get that opportunity. So when people choose one versus the other, that's the critical, that's, I guess, the turning point. And I always tell people, when people ask me this question, oh, should I do the advanced standing or should I do perio? I really like perio. I always ask back, what do you want? Do you want to stay in the US? And if the answer is yes, I will say, then where do you want to go? Do you know which state in the United States you want to stay? If they tell me, yes, I want to, I don't know, go to Florida, then I'll say, you know what, look at the laws in Florida and see what are the opportunities for you to get a license with a periodontal degree, with a certificate.
Okay.
Because you will only be able to practice with a certificate in some states in the United States. And those states vary. They're all the time between 7 to 11, depending on like some states like go in and out of that. So that's how dynamic things are and how quickly the information changes. So at this moment, there are 9 states, but not too long ago, there were 12. So they continue to change. Of course, once you get the license, they cannot take it back from you. But for you to even go in the process of a license, you need this information to be as current as possible, right? So for those that don't know where they want to go, they just know that they want to stay in the US and they want to have all the opportunities open. The best career path for them will be to go into an IS program, which is a 2-year, 3-year, or 4-year, depending on the dental school, program on which you become a dental student. So as you know, at least at Tufts, you get inserted in 3rd year. So you do a little bit of didactics and you do 3rd and 4th year of dental school, which for some people can be a shock because they might be already specialists in their countries. They might have been practicing for 10 years. They might have children and, because they're your classmates, right? So how life gets complicated. And being a dental student is not easy, ever is easier, but it doesn't get easier as you get older. I can promise you that. So that path in particular is good for those that want to have their options open, want to be able to go anywhere in the United States, and they're okay going to a 2-year program.
Gotcha.
For those, they require that you have the national boards. So you have to have your boards passed, and then you have to have your TOEFL scores, depending on what the score is. So each school will have different scores because it also depends on the state. So those are basic requirements if you want to go in that direction. And when I say basic requirements, we'll talk a little bit about what's not basic requirement, but everybody does. And I'll put a pin on that and get back to that. So talking about the certificate, which is the other line. So you have one pre-doctoral, this is postdoctoral. So if you want to specialize, and specialties, there are 11 recognized specialties in the United States that you could get your specialty degree and work in some states. And there are also general practice residencies and advanced general dentistry residencies, which is something that doesn't exist anywhere else either. That's something that is also very inherited of America. And then those are just general dentistry programs on which you don't really get a specialty on anything specific, but you do a little bit of general dentistry. You guys know that very well. So if you follow the path, you will either do a 2-year program, a 3-year program, whatever that is. And then once you graduate from that program, you will have to decide which state can you practice. And based on the states in which you can practice, you will have to do the licensing process in that state. For some programs, very competitive programs like endo, ortho, you will have to have the national boards because the school will ask you for it before applying. For some other programs like pros and perio, depending on the university, they don't ask for the national boards. And I think the concept behind it is that a lot of people just do specialty and they go back to their countries. So it's kind of unfair to ask somebody to take the national boards if they don't want to be a dentist in this country, right?
That makes sense.
So I think private universities and universities that have a large international community, they don't ask for the board exams because they're used to have students or residents just coming in and leaving. But there are universities that are state universities that are definitely cheaper, and programs that are a little bit smaller and more competitive, they will ask you as many stuff as they can ask you. So those are the 2 paths, right? Then once you, and I will get back to my ping information, which is the other things that are not the things that are written in paper.
Right.
Everybody knows that you have to do boards, and everybody knows as an international dentist that you have to do TOEFL, which is the English proficiency exam. Then on top of that, I talk about the differences between curriculum, right? You guys do a lot more things of what is in your curriculum. And I call that in education, we call that in education, the hidden curriculum. The things that everybody does, and you are expected to do as a dental student, but nobody told you, right? Nobody gave you that in writing. Did you see your friends doing? Why is everybody doing research? Why is everybody doing leadership stuff? Why is everybody enrolling into organizations? Why everybody's doing? You just do because you don't want to be the one that doesn't do it. Pretty much, right? Nobody asks why, just everybody does it. Why? Because I guess you could talk about that for hours. Everybody wants to be more competitive in residency. Everybody wants to be different and all that, because you learn to live in an environment of competition. That's actually very inherited to the American system in general, culturally. Many countries are not like that at all. You do what you have in your curriculum, that's it. There is no extracurricular activities. First of all, because not everybody has opportunity to do extracurricular activities. Many universities don't have research because they don't have resources for research. And many schools don't encourage those activities because they don't really count as part of your curriculum. Like if you were part of an organization or something like that, I was part of a lot of organizations. I didn't even know that I could put those in my curriculum because in my country it doesn't mean anything. So I think those that for some people are soft skills or all those other skills besides what is in your curriculum is what foreign trained dentists struggle the most, because they might not have that many of those. They don't have a way of proving they did because they don't have documentation of that either. And many of them actually have zero experience of any of that. So imagine now another layer of complexity. You're coming here, yes, you're a dentist, but you don't have research, you don't have volunteer experience, you have been part of zero organizations, you also don't know what's going on. So it's a combo for failure. So part of what we did in the bootcamp was actually making people aware of this hidden curriculum and why it's so important that for them to be competitive, they have to get ready and do all these extra things. Right. And then how do you do them if you don't have opportunities, right? So it ended up being this endless wheel that goes back all the time to the same place, which is kind of sad because if you look at the numbers, the number of international applicants in the United States every year for, do you have any idea what the numbers are for applications for IS programs?
Let me see.
I would honestly say,
For like,
think about it, our IS class,
I would say like,
we had like what, 50?
We had 50 and I think we're like the second biggest.
But then, okay, so you know what?
Maybe like at least 5,000. Probably more though.
No,
I mean, in America, it's like 12,000 students to have.
True.
So it's like worldwide.
I can see that. Let's say 5. Let's say 5,000.
We'll go with 5. We'll go with 5. Yeah, we'll go with 5.
For how many spots? For how many spots nationally?
Oh, maybe like
was it
maybe
200?
Maybe 150, 200, something like that.
Okay, close. So
Okay.
Actually, close. You guys are close. You know your numbers. For number of applicants, it varies every year between 5 to 7,000. Wow. And the number of positions, now that we have, our school just grew their international program a few years ago. So we're the second largest, as you well said. The first largest for those interested is BU. And wow. So that type of information is important for applicants. Imagine many applicants have no idea about this. Why? Because you think, okay, I'm going to just apply to a program in a city I like. And we think these things that doesn't really correlate with the scenario we live in. And you know, guys know because you've been to school here, so you know that this is not a choice of a city.
Could be a lot worse. I'll say that.
It was way beyond that. But we're very innocent, right? So just come with all these American dreams. But anyway, the number of acceptance every year, it's about 7%. So 7% of those foreign trained dentists, which will be anywhere between 300-400. That's the one. Those are the ones that get spots. So you could imagine how many people just don't get it. And if they don't get into any program, they go to a next cycle. And I can promise you the majority of them don't get in because they're not prepared. And I see them because they talk to me. They ask me questions. I know my community. I know my people, right? So I know them very well. And I know what their struggles are. And most of the struggles come from the fact that they don't know where they're standing. They don't know how to maximize their experience. They don't know what their strengths are. And they really don't understand the system. So I feel that that's the main challenge and where the opportunity for growth comes. Because whenever we have the first boot campers, I told them, you know, guys, you have to take the time to be prepared. And I remember for the boot campers, 3 of them were like ready to apply. I'm like, yes, no, I'm ready to apply. I'm just doing this program so I can network. And after the boot camp, they all 3 came back to me. They're like, I'm going to take another year because I think if I don't want to have a 1 year of cycle application in my application not being accepted. Because then how do you excuse yourself? I even say when you send a curriculum, and this will apply for you guys now that are going in the workforce right now, don't send your curriculum until it's ready. And being ready means being very ready. Why? Because once it's sent, you cannot unsend. And then if you send it now and then you change, then I got a coach and the coach told me that I should put stuff differently to be more attractive or whatever. Then you send it again to the same person, even if it's been a year, they're going to look at both and said, okay, what's true? Is this person lying to me? Okay. So that's what happened with a failed application. And that's what I see the challenge of people getting into 1 cycle, 2 cycles, 3 cycles and not getting in. And then looking for help after 3 or 4 cycles. Oh, I don't know what I did. And that's already a mark. And I don't want to say that they're not going to get in. I'm just saying that it's going to be even harder because you're basically probably applying to the same programs. You're not making any difference, right? So even worse, because now you have the same curriculum of 4 years ago, like Shoibi, that you didn't do anything in these 4 years to improve your applicancy. So those are things I will highlight as the main issues or the main obstacles and challenges that foreign trained dentists experience in this country.
So quick question. I just want to know, how much is it? Like, is this a costly experience? Or, because I know at least for us, you know, as undergrad students, you know, applying to different schools, it really became costly, you know? Yeah. So is it the same with international dentists?
And granted, we do have a lot more like schools we can apply to, more so the program. So maybe it's not as expensive, but you got to take more exams. You got to take boards before you get into school. So it's a lot of things. Yeah. I guess how much is it?
Like on average, yeah.
Yeah, on average, of course, every school has their own application fee, which is another that is completely different to other countries. Like most countries don't have like a centralized application center or anything like that. So you have to pay whatever individual fees. And I remember my experience when I was doing the process, I chose my schools based on my budget, completely honest.
Yep.
You know, I had a limited budget for applications, which was, I don't even know if it was $1,500 or $2,000. So I could only apply to the number of schools my budget would allow me. And I have to count that if I get called to a certain number of interviews, I'll have to choose my interviews based on how much trips I can pay.
Yep.
So everything adds up. And remember, I was not working. And if I'm in a student visa, I cannot work. So a lot of people detour a little bit for certain years and they wait. It's super complex. So a lot of people detour for a few years and they said, you know what, I'm going to try to first become a citizen. So at least I could work in McDonald's or do whatever, or be a dental assistant or something else. So at least I could have a living and then start saving up money for the process. Because it's not only the 100 here, 200 there, it's the fact that you have to take the national course, that if you fail a few times, like I failed part one so many times, I had to pay again. So I'm sure the ADA has a decorated office with all my exam fees. And I don't mind saying it because I think we really have to humanize these things. These exams are hard. And then as a foreign trained dentist, even harder. So I will say that the whole process cost me at that time, 10 years ago, around $10,000.
That is an investment.
Yeah,
that is
for
an
sure.
investment. We will say
Without guarantee, right? Without guarantee.
Without
That's why I was so stubborn. And I told my dad, I'm going to make it to some university. I don't know how. I'm going to figure it out.
Wow.
I could not imagine just seeing my dad on the face after spending all that money and say, you know what? Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get in. I didn't have that luxury. Like my dads are hard worker people. I was using their savings, so I couldn't.
It's so interesting because even like now that I'm like starting to learn more about the process and everything, you know, I have some pretty good friends who are IS students, and I never thought that they were going through all of these different things. I never knew they had to, you know, get over all these obstacles. And, you know, I only can imagine, of course, we're all graduating, graduation season right now. And, you know, they're super excited. And you know, whereas it's kind of like, we're just like, okay, yeah, I mean, we knew this was going to happen. But no, some of my friends are ecstatic. And now it's just starting to make a little bit more sense because they have to go through so much.
Like a student visa to grad, man, that is,
and already going through dental school, and they're wherever they're from, they already went through dental school, so they're already dentists, and they have to go through. It's wow, that's crazy.
A lot. That is a lot.
That's a lot. Okay, so
you know, when you go back to school tomorrow, you hug them, okay? You hug them.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I have a whole new appreciation for the process they have to go through.
100%. Okay, so I know that there are, you know, outside of you were the first exposure to us of anybody really trying to make this process a little bit easier. But we've seen that you're starting to do some work with Promethean Dental Systems. Can you kind of talk to us about what they have working and you know how you're kind of involved in that?
Yes, of course. And going back to my passion and love for technology. So I learned from this company that is trying to do things with educational technology and haptics and artificial intelligence. And of course, I want to hear more. That was my first thing when I heard about the proposal and what they were intending to do. And because they were already developing a program for pre-dental students, and they were actually supporting licensure exams in certain places, they were really already considering doing the approach to the international community. And they wanted to know more about the international community needs. And that's I guess the reason why I appreciate them even more, because they reached out to me right away. You know what? We really want to best serve the international community. We all know people that have been through this process. We just don't even know what they go through, and we cannot best serve them. We have the technology, we have the equipment. We really want to support the community. What can we do for them? So they put together a program for internationally trained dentists. And I think what is very unique about their program is that this is going to help supporting hand skills, which is something that with the bootcamp, as I said, the bootcamp was an online experience. This is going to talk about all of the concepts and bringing you up to speed in terms of getting ready. But there is still that barrier of your extracurricular activities and these things that you didn't do. And I think one of the main barriers is that because dental schools are so different everywhere in the world, and in my dental school, we did a lot of clinical work. Some dental schools, they even have assistants and they share patients because they don't even have the same number of patients for care. So yes, so I feel that having that calibration, and that's the main reason why the process is so difficult. And when this was first created in the 80s, the reason why they created the international programs was for that reason, because they assume, okay, we don't trust you, right? We don't know how was your dental school. We don't even know if you can treat patients safely. And for patient safety, they created these programs. So these could overcome the challenge, right? Because these people, you don't have a way of proving that you're a good dentist. You have a certificate, you have a degree, yes, but how can you really tell the university, how can I tell Tufts, I'm the best dentist that you can have? Okay, show me. Then they're not going to give me a patient and tell me, show me, or prep a tooth, right? So PDS proposal, it's fantastic because it's going to allow you the opportunity of practicing in models and then practicing also using artificial intelligence and technology, and then creating a portfolio that you could show your dental schools when you're applying. So you're actually taking that extracurricular activity to the next level because you're integrating technology, you're investing in yourself, you're really showing that you're committed to getting to these programs. And I think anything that you can do to make yourself different in this situation is super valuable. As I said, over 5,000 to 7,000 people. How can you really stand up as one of the hundreds that get selected? you have to do something different. So the proposal is great because it brings that to the table. It brings that opportunity for bridging that gap between clinical experience beyond saying I work as a dental assistant for X number of years, or I was doing wax ups in a lab for whatever years. Yeah. There are really not that many ways that you could prove that you have good hand skills. And even worse, if you have been out of practice for many years. I know a lot of international dentists that they 10 years after, you know already how complicated it is. It might take them 10 years to get into a program. And then you're going to get the question of how do I know that your hand skills are still okay after 10 years? And what are you going to say? You cannot say anything. Right. I practice in my basement with my typodont and without faculty. Oh, you guys don't know that? Foreign trained dentists, they purchase all of equipment to practice at home because they don't have access to laboratories. You don't have SIM clinics. You don't have any of that, right? So you immigrate, you left your country. So you had to get the compressor, hand speed, everything. And a lot of people set stations at home to practice for bench exams and things like that. Wow. It is that challenge. It is.
I was literally just about to ask you about like how, you know, the previous process, or even like how to even keep your hand skills up or kind of prove that in some way to these dental schools. Like how does that compare, and how is, I guess, PDS kind of addressing that? And, you know, you kind of spoke on it there, but if you have any more to add to that, that would be perfect.
Yeah, so I think what they add into the table is the fact that not only you're practicing, as I said, you can practice in your basement if you just buy all the equipment and stuff, but you don't have any feedback from anyone. You don't have any faculty feedback. You don't have any guidance. You don't have anyone correcting you. You could really be prepping a tooth wrong for 20 years. I've seen people prepping wrong teeth for easily 20 years. If nobody comes and tells you, you always have an undercut on the distal mesial corner, or you always under-reduce the palatal. If nobody tells you that, you're going to keep practicing dentistry. And I know graduate and licensed dentists that they just blame the lab all the time. Oh, my lab doesn't work. Let's change lab. Or they spend hours doing occlusal adjustments. If you spend hours doing occlusal adjustments, call me. I'll have a conversation with you. But going back to what PDS brings into the table is that opportunity of having constructive feedback. They will be working over those 5 days with faculty members. So not only they can practice, but they could also learn what their mistakes are and be really trained for what is called a bench exam, which foreign trained dentists have to do to get into these programs. Many schools have a bench exam on which they want you to prep some teeth because they want to see your skills. They're going to insert you into third year of dental school. So they want to make sure that at least you're able to prep something. So the exam is not too complicated. Many exams is just like an operative prep and then maybe a single unit molar or premolar, depending on the ordinance. Your tooth is very similar to CDCA pros and operative in terms of what they ask. But I think if you don't have an opportunity to practice, and you might practice on your own, but why practicing on your own? If you could have feedback, if you could have sessions, if you could really learn how these exams are made, and then you could also have your first experience as an American dental student, which you never had, right? That's not going to happen at your basement. That's not going to happen in your Facebook groups and forums. That's not going to happen with your friends. It will only happen at PDS.
Awesome. And so I think, a theme of this entire interview is resourcefulness, right? You've given out a lot of different resources. You obviously have a bunch of different channels that you're involved with, to make sure that international dentists are achieving their goals of, coming to the U.S. and practicing. So how can international dentists, reach out to you, get access to your content, get access to your boot camp, and as well as the PDS system as well? How can they access all of these different things?
That's a great question. And I like the concept of one-stop shop. I feel like everything should be integrated in one app if possible. And so that's why I put together my website, theinternationaldentist.com. And if you go there, you'll find my podcast. And of course, if you like Spotify, if you like Apple Podcasts, I'm there too. I'm a little bit everywhere on Instagram. But if you just want to find everything in one place, theinternationaldentist.com. PDS is linked there, so you can learn more about the program. The bootcamp is there. So I have plenty of videos with information about this on social media as well. Shorter videos, longer videos for any kind of learner. And I'm happy to answer any questions also. You can DM me or email me, and I'm always replying. I'm the person that always sends voice notes, and all of my followers know that I don't have time to type.
It changes the game.
It does. It's so much.
Oh my God. It makes it so much easier.
Nobody has time to type these days, so everything that I send is like multiple 1-minute things. Yeah. But I'm more than happy to help. So if anyone has any questions, or if for whatever reason you connected with me or with my message, I will be happy to meet you, happy to help you, and really looking forward to make your path as an international dentist, as a foreign trained dentist in the United States, successful.
Awesome. Well, again, Dr. Lagreca, thank you for taking some
Thank
time
you.
out and taking us through your story, everything you got going on right now. And of course, extending that helping hand for anybody who wants to reach out, definitely ask you questions. This is a wealth of knowledge to everyone out there looking, watching. Make sure you reach out to Dr. Lagreca, ask her anything. I'm sure she responds to us very quickly. So I'm sure she'll respond to you as well. If you guys have any questions for Tyler and myself, you can also send us a DM on, I'll be on Instagram at _FutureDDS, or, add a comment down below, and we'll definitely get back to you as soon as you can. But that's gonna wrap it up for today's interview. Dr. Lagreca, again, thank you. You've been a blessing for us, offering all this information.
And of course, we'll link everything below your website, everything, so that people can just scroll down and just click on it and be where they need to be. So.
And can I say something else quickly just before we close?
Please do.
I just want to bring it back to thanking you guys, because now that people know a little bit more about what a dental student goes through from the international perspective, I really honor and admire everything you go through. The dental school career in this country is not easy. It has a lot of layers of complexity, not even talking about the fact that you go to college, and we don't even do that. So the involvement that represents to become a dentist here is huge. So I feel you guys doing this and taking these extra steps and times in your busy lives. And even if you were not busy, you don't have to do this, and you still choose to. So really kudos to you. Congratulations, and keep helping and making FutureDDS grow and flourish.
Thank you. Hopefully we can team up again.
Yeah, we'll collab for sure. We'll have to put something together and make sure we get something going.
100%.
I would love to.
All right, have a good evening. All right, everyone. See you guys next time.
All right, y'all.